Hey, it's Cairo. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going over all the black cards that you need to know from Phyrexia All Will Be One. So let's get started. We are going to start off with a banger. Sheoldred's Edict. 1 black, 1 generic. It's an instant. You can make your opponents sacrifice a non-token creature, a token creature, or a planeswalker. And this works on each opponent. So this is going to be a crazy card in Commander where you have multiple opponents. Even in 1 vs 1 formats, this is early removal for a 2 or 3 drop if they only have 1 creature on the board. If they have a powerful creature token from Fable of the Mirror Breaker, you can make them sacrifice that if it's their only token. And they're unlikely to have more than 1 planeswalker on the field, and you can do this for 2 mana to sacrifice their only planeswalker. This is a versatile and a very powerful removal spell. Without a doubt, this is going to see play in Standard. It's going to see a lot of play in Limited. Next up, we have Vraan, Executioner Thane, 1 black, 1 generic for a 2/2 Phyrexian Vampire. When 1 or more creatures you control die, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This ability triggers only once each turn. Now we know in Limited, black and red is the sacrifice theme. And we also know that Rakdos Anvil is still around in Standard. Vraan could be a 1-of or a 2-of in that deck. He might make a decent impact on the meta. The verdict is kind of still out, but it's something that you should know. Next, this is our new completed Planeswalker. This is a 6-drop. This is Vraska for 6 loyalty or 5 and 2 life for 4 loyalty. 0, you can draw a card, lose 1 life, and proliferate. -2, target creature becomes a treasure, so you can remove their biggest creature and make it into a treasure, which is cool. And -9, if target player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to that difference, so they go up to 9 poison counters. So Vraska should see play in some constructed formats, including Standard. This is card draw, this is removal, and this is an almost game-winning ultimate. She's probably too slow to be played in mid-range, but if there's a black base, say Esper, Control, something like that, she could definitely be played there, so I would watch out for Vraska. Next up is Archfiend of the Dross. This is a card I think people have been sleeping on. It does have a downside, as we'll see. It's 2 black mana, 2 generic for a 6/6 flyer, which is way above rate. It enters the battlefield with 4 oil counters on it, which are new counters to this set. At the beginning of your upkeep, you remove an oil counter from it, and then if it has no oil counters on it, you lose the game. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. You just have to make sure that you have a way to sacrifice this thing if the oil counters go away. And if you're in black and blue, there's ways to proliferate oil counters back on this. So I think this is actually a very good investment for the mana value and can close out games. If you want to be really cruel, you can just give it to your opponent with Harmless Offering or something like that in Eternal formats and Commander. Next, we have a card that has historically been good. This is a reprint. This is Phyrexian Arena, 2 black, 1 generic. It's an enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card, lose 1 life. And drawing an extra card a turn is always very powerful. The 3-drop slot in Standard and a lot of other formats is a very important slot. And this does have to stick around on the battlefield for at least 2 or 3 turns to really get good value off of it. But this is a powerful card, and it could shape the meta in Standard and other formats as well. We're gonna have to see how it goes, but it's something to be aware of. Here we have a card that I am absolutely in love with for Limited. This is 1 black, 1 generic for an instant. Exile target creature if it has mana value 3 or less. There are a lot of really potent creatures that cost 3 or less, so this is always going to have a target in the early game. And it has Corrupted, and exile a creature instead if its controller has 3 or more poison counters. And in black and blue, Proliferate, that's going to be pretty easy to get. And I think white has some ability to get there too with its Corrupted triggers. So this is going to be absolutely premium removal and Limited, and I would think about picking this up over a lot of other things. Speaking of putting 3 poison counters on our opponent, this Bilious Skulldweller does that job pretty well. It's 1 black, so in the early game, if you're a little bit aggressive, you're concerned about hitting that corrupted threshold of 3 poison counters, this can get in because they don't want to block it, especially with a 2 or a 3 drop, and it also be held back and function kind of like a removal spell to keep aggro off of your back. This is a really, really versatile creature, and it helps you to get to that corrupted threshold. I think this is going to be a very good 1-drop in Limited. This card's going to see play somewhere in Constructed. Limited, yeah, it's absolutely insane. But Black Sun's Twilight, 1 black, X. Instant. Up to 1 target creature gets -X until end of turn. So that's a little bit inefficient removal, but it's not damage, so it can get around indestructible and things like that. But wait, there's more. If X is 5 or more, return a creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So in Reanimator builds, you usually want to put something in the graveyard that's really potent and then cast a spell to bring it back and cheat it out. This is limited on the mana value, so you have to tap a lot of mana to get an expensive thing out, but it's also removing your opponent's major threat. So you can all at once tap, say, 4, 5, 6 mana, remove their huge threat at instant speed, and bring back something from your graveyard to the battlefield, get an enter the battlefield effect, and then just flip the tide. Black Sun's Twilight, I think, is the best of this Twilight cycle. Here's an uncommon, Nimraiser Paladin, 1 black, 4 generic for Phyrexian Knight. It's a 4/4, little underpowered on the power and toughness for a 5-drop, but it has Toxic 2, and when it enters the battlefield, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. This is very good. I think it's going to be good in sacrifice decks, where you sacrifice something, get the payoff, play this, bring it back to hand, recycle it, get that value. So Nimraiser Paladin, I think, is going to be a really good uncommon for limited. And last but certainly not least, Phyrexian Obliterator gets a reprint in this set. 4 black, hard to make work in limited, but in mono black constructed, has been an all-star in the past, is a very good card. It's a 5/5 trample. Whenever a source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents. That means they don't want to target it with a burn spell, they have to sacrifice 5 permanents. They don't want to block because their creature will deal damage to it, they're sacrificing permanents. It's just like a messy, messy thing for the opponent to deal with. And for that reason, it's going to be very powerful. Phyrexian Obliterator is a mythic rare and it deserves to be there, and it's a very, very good card. So that wraps up the video for today. Thank you very, very much for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing and hitting that thumbs up. It's free. It helps to support the channel and helps me to make more videos. Have a great day.